All right, everyone, so this is from day one of the meetup game Josh and I had at the Georgetown Poker Club. We're playing a PLO and Hold'em mix. This first interesting hand, I looked at an ace-10, 6-5 single suited. We're on the turn of king-jack 8-2 with 3 hearts. My opponent shoves. I, of course, make the call, and we're going heads up to a river. The river brings an 8. My opponent turns over ace-jack 2-2, so he rivered the boat, and Carl's going to take it down here. Here we're playing some 2-card. I look down at king-jack offsuit in the small blind. Folds to the button who makes it 10. I make the call, and the big blind folds, so we're going heads up to a flop. We go to a flop of jack 7-2 with 2 spades. I check, he c-bets 11. I make it 35, and he thinks a bit and makes the call. So we're going heads up to a turn. The turn brings a 10. I should still have the best hand here, so I bet 85. My opponent thinks a little bit and makes the fold, so we take it down here. Besides playing a PLO and no limit mix, we also play $10 double board PLO bomb pots every orbit around the table. I look down at king 9, 7-7 single suited in middle position. We go to flops of queen 10-7 with 2 diamonds and 10-8-6 with 2 clubs. Early position player bets 15. There's one caller to me. I make it 150. Over to Chance directly to my left, who makes the call. Then over to Wilson in the cutoff. He's a longtime viewer of the channel, just switched to PLO last year. Really cool guy from the Houston area. He thinks for a bit and then pots it. He has everyone covered at the table. Everyone folds to me. I'm, of course, happy to get all the money in, and Chance does as well. So we're going 3 ways to 2 runouts. The turns bring a 10 on the top and a 5 on the bottom. Rivers bring a 3 on the top and a queen on the bottom. So not bad runouts considering how draw heavy the flops were. It might be tough to see on the screen, but Wilson shows ace, king, king, jack. So he had a wrap on the top board and the nut flush draw on the bottom. And Chance shows the king, queen, jack 10. So he also had clubs, top 2 pair on the top and straight draws on both. So me and Chance are going to chop it up here. And for anyone interested in playing in this game, it runs every Thursday night at 5 o'clock. You can check them out on Pokeralis. Again, it's a PLO and Hold'em mix with a double board bomb pot every orbit. Here, look down at pocket kings in middle position. The early position player makes it 10. I'm a bit rusty when it comes to Hold'em, but I believe it's a pretty good hand here, so I make it 40. There's a late position caller and the early position player calls. So we're going 3 ways to a flop. The flop comes 6-5-4 with 2 clubs. Early position checks to me. Would prefer a more disconnected board, but still good enough to bet, so I bet 80. Late position calls and early position folds, so we're going heads up to a turn. The turn brings the worst card in the deck in a 7 of clubs. I check. My opponent's counting out some chips, and he bets 125. And I don't think I can call here with a one-liner. Flush obviously got there. I don't even have a king of clubs in my hand, so I fold. Back to PLO, and I look down at ace, king, queen 10 double suited in the big blind. There are a bunch of limpers, gets back to me, I make it 30, and there are 3 callers, so we're going 4 ways to a flop. Flop comes jack 10-10 rainbow. I bet 55, and there's 1 caller, so we're going heads up to a turn. Turn brings a 9, I check, and my opponent checks back, so still going heads up to a river. River brings a 5. I tell my opponent that I think I'm good, but I'm just going to bet $5, and he doesn't think that's enough and makes it 60. My opponent in this hand is named Jeff. He's a really cool guy who lives in Waco, Texas. He lives there with his wife and 3 kids. He actually works at a kolache factory, which I had no clue what that is, and I'm sure a lot of people probably don't unless you live in Texas. So I think a bit, and I don't think his line makes a ton of sense. So I make the call, and he turns over the ace-jack of diamonds, and we turn over our hand, and we're good. So taking it down here. Here we're playing a double board bomb pot. I look down at ace, king, queen, 5 single suited in middle position. We go to flops of ace, king, 5 rainbow and king, queen, jack rainbow. Action checks to me. I bet 35 and there's 1 caller. So we're going heads up to a couple turns. The turn brings a 2 on both boards. My opponent checks again, and this time I bet 100. He thinks for a bit and makes the call. So again, we're going heads up to a couple rivers. The rivers bring a 7 on the top and a 5 on the bottom, which shouldn't really change anything. My opponent checks again, and I kind of put my opponent here on 10-9. I do block the ace-10, but obviously not the 10-9. So I want to put pressure on him if he has that hand. So I bet 300. My opponent in this hand is named Gawain. So I'm Wayne, he's Gawain, a really cool guy from South Africa. He ends up tanking for a little bit over a minute and eventually folds. He later tells me that he had top 2 and top pair. So if that were the case, I would have 3-quartered him, but we're going to take it down here. So I've switched tables with Josh. Here I look down at ace, king, 7-6 single suited in middle position. There's an early position limp. Next player makes it 20. I call. Player late position now makes it 85. There are 2 calls to me. And this is a little wider than I normally would probably call with, but it's a meetup game, so I don't want to completely knit it up. So I also make the call, and we're going 4 ways to a flop. Flop comes ace-5-4 with 2 clubs. Action checks to me, I check. The late position 3-better only has 45 left. He puts it all in the middle. Both players call to me, and I also call. So still going 4 ways to a turn. The turn brings a 5. Action checks to me, and I check as well. So still going 4 ways to a river. River brings a king. Action checks to me once again, and I check back as well. The late position player who was all in turns over Jack 10, 5-3. Chris, who is one of the regulars here at Georgetown Poker Club, he turns over Queen 9, 3-2. He's a really cool guy. He actually brought in some food from his Chinese restaurant that he owns called Lynn's Cafe, and the food was amazing. So if you want some really good Chinese in Georgetown area, check it out. He's actually going to take it down here with the wheel. So I mentioned that what we're currently playing runs every Thursday night, but if you're interested in a PLO and Big O mix, they're going to run that every Friday night at 6 o'clock. It's a $200 to $500 buy-in with match a stack. And the next video that comes out, you guys will see some of that. So if you're interested, call Juan at the Georgetown Poker Club, or you can register on Poker Atlas. Here, look down at 8-7-6-2, single suit in the small blind and a straddled pot. There are a couple late position limpers. I also limp, big blind does as well, and the straddler checks. So we're going 5 ways to a flop. Flop comes 9-7-5 with 2 diamonds. I bet 45, and only Bob makes the call, so we're going heads up to a turn. Turn brings a 6, so obviously now 10-8 beats me, but I should still have the best hand here, so I bet 80, and Bob makes the call, so we're still going heads up to a river. The river brings a queen, so shouldn't really change anything here. I bet 125, and Bob quickly folds, so we take it down. Here, look down at Queen 6 off in the big blind. Now, something Josh and I run at our meetup games is what's called the small blind jackpot. So how it works is the player that's on the button adds a predetermined amount, typically $5 to the button, and the only player that can win this money is the player in the small blind. It doesn't influence the amount of the pot or anything like that. It's just an extra incentive just for the player in the small blind. So the player in the small blind in this hand is Jeff. There's $70 on the line. He told me if it limps to him, he would go ahead and push. It didn't limp to him. There was an early position raise of 15, 1 caller, but he didn't care anyway and go ahead and push for about 400. And there was a couple people that tanked, but it does eventually get through, and he turns over the 9-5 like a boss and takes down the extra 70. So a little while after Jeff won the $70 in the small blind jackpot, we decided to do $10, and actually now you can maybe see from the screen it's $160. So definitely a lot up for grabs. I looked down at ace 8-6-6 single suited on the button. There are a bunch of limpers. I also limp over to the player in the small blind who makes it 30. And obviously here, most people are going to defend a little bit wider because they don't want him to win the extra incentive. So there's actually 3 callers ahead of me, and I call as well. So we're going 5 ways to a flop. Flop comes 6-4-2 rainbow. Checks over to Josh, who bets 75. Jeff to my right makes the call, and I think for a little bit and make it 3-15. Everyone folds back to Josh, who thinks for a bit and folds over to Jeff, who asks me what I want to do, and I say it's up to him. And then he says okay and goes ahead and pushes for about 800. I, of course, make the call. He asks if I want to run it twice, and I tell him yes. So we're going to 2 runouts. Jeff turns over the King Queen 7-5 for the open-ended straight. First runout brings a 3 on the turn and a 9 on the river. So that one's going to go to Jeff. Second runout brings another 9, and river brings an ace. So we win that bottom board, and we're going to chop it up here with Jeff. 3 hands after the previous hand, the small blind jackpot is now up to $190. Paul, who's a regular here at the Georgetown Poker Club, he's in the small blind. He has a little bit over $200. He decides to push it all in blind against Bob. They end up going heads up to a board, which comes out Queen 10, 6-4-2 with 3 clubs. Bob turns over the Ace Jack 10-10 for set, and the first 2 cards that Paul turns over are the King 7 of clubs, so he's going to take down the pot and the extra $190 from the small blind jackpot. What's up, guys? Wayne back here with you. So today I was in for 500, out for 694, so profit of 194. I unfortunately didn't get in a ton of big pots, but had a lot of fun, and I want to thank everyone at Georgetown Poker Club for having us out. Josh and I had a lot of fun and are definitely looking forward to coming back. So again, if you're in the Austin area, if you want to play the Hold'em and PLO mix, that's Thursday nights. And then on Friday nights, they have the PLO and Big O mix. So check out Poker Atlas to get on the list for both of those. And if you haven't seen the previous episode, I'll link it up above, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.